Okay, take a deep breath with me for a second. Just look at this phrase. Just a moment. It's a phrase we've all seen thousands, honestly, probably tens of thousands of times. Usually, we're just staring blankly at the screen, waiting for the internet to do its thing. It's this completely universal, yet totally fleeting digital experience. Just a tiny 2-second pause in our incredibly busy lives that we barely even register anymore. But today, we're going to freeze time. We are going to take this seemingly insignificant, almost invisible little micro-interaction, and we're going to blow it up into a full-blown forensic investigation.
So, welcome to the explainer. Okay, let's dive into this, because what looks like a simple, polite loading screen is actually the front line of a massive, invisible war. Today, we're deconstructing the digital gatekeeper. We're going to pull apart the exact mechanics of what happens during that microscopic delay, and we'll understand precisely what is being asked of you and, your computer before you're allowed to cross the velvet rope and enter a website. Section 1. The security pause. The anatomy of a 2-second wait. So it's absolutely crucial to realize right off the bat that this screen isn't just loading data. It is actively interrogating your connection. Our specific destination for this digital journey today is proandroiddev.com. Now, normally, this is a blink and you miss it pit stop, right? You click a link, you see the little spinning wheel, and boom, you're in, reading articles about Android development. But today, we're stretching that 2-second pit stop out into a wide-angle lens. Proandroiddev.com is essentially the VIP lounge. And right now, we are currently stuck outside on the sidewalk dealing with the bouncer. Let's move to the next step and see how this builds, because there's actually a documented narrative arc happening in these few seconds. It's a real story of tension and release happening entirely behind the scenes. Step 1 is the interrogation, performing security verification. At this very moment, you are a suspect. Then step 2 is the exhalation, the release of tension. Verification successful. You've passed the test. And finally, step 3 is the handoff, waiting for proandroiddev.com to respond. The bouncer has cleared you, and now he's literally just waiting for the host to open the front door.
Moving right along to Section 2, blocking malicious bots, the invisible war on your screen.
But, why do we even need this bouncer in the first place? Well, let's talk about the invisible war happening right underneath the surface. The pace of the internet is frantic, right? It's just swarming with automated scripts, scraping data, launching cyber attacks, and constantly probing for weaknesses. So this pause exists as a barricade, thrown up in milliseconds to protect the host. Just look at this exact quote from our digital crime scene here. This website uses a security service to protect against malicious bots. It explicitly states that this page is displayed while the website verifies you aren't a bot. It perfectly highlights the inherent paranoia of the modern web. I mean, think about that for a second. The default assumption is no longer that you're just some friendly human dropping by to read an article. No, the default assumption is that you are an active threat until proven otherwise. Constant protection is just the new baseline.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict happening in those 2 seconds. On one side, we have you, the user, eagerly wanting to read an article, but subject to these silent split-second verification checks. And on the flip side, we have the malicious bot, this invisible, relentless threat that triggers the need for this security service in the absolute first place. You two entities are basically locked in a struggle over this exact microscopic digital checkpoint. All right, Section 3. The verification tools, what it takes to prove your humanity. So if you're presumed guilty of being a bot the very second you click a link, how do you prove your innocence? What exactly does it take to prove your humanity to a digital gatekeeper? Well, the system demands specific technical requirements, precise tools that absolutely must be active on your machine. The instructions here are completely uncompromising. Enable JavaScript and cookies to continue. Notice that authoritative tone? Yeah, it's not a polite request. It is a hard technical requirement. If these specific browser tools aren't active, the velvet rope stays up. You can't continue. Your whole journey to proandroiddev.com just ends right here on this screen. So let's break down those demands, starting with cookies. Now, in this highly strict security context, cookies are digital markers that the security service explicitly requires you to enable in order to continue the verification process. They aren't just saving your login or, keeping items in your shopping cart today. They're acting as a necessary piece of identification. It's essentially a credential that the bouncer needs to see stamped on your browser to prove you're capable of holding state, exactly like a real, actual human browsing session would.
And immediately alongside that, you are commanded to enable JavaScript, This is the active browser scripting that the security service explicitly requires you to enable in order to continue the verification process. So while cookies act as your ID badge, JavaScript is basically the physical agility test. The Gatekeeper uses it to run these complex, completely invisible mathematical puzzles in the background. If your browser can successfully compute the puzzle using JavaScript, it proves you're running a modern, interactive web browser, which confirms you aren't just some simple, malicious bot trying to scrape text.
Bringing us to Section 4, the Ray ID receipt, the digital footprint of your verification.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we finally arrived at the climax of our forensic investigation, the literal digital footprint of your verification. Once you pass that JavaScript test and present your cookies, the system clears you. But it leaves behind a very specific piece of metadata. Notice this massive, isolated alphanumeric string here? This is your Ray ID. It just sits quietly at the very bottom of the page, but it's a crucial, totally unique piece of evidence left at the scene. It's your personal tracking number for this exact moment in time. Basically, a cryptographic receipt that effectively says, yes, this specific connection at this exact millisecond was interrogated, tested, and cleared.
So, who issues this receipt? Who actually built the checkpoint, evaluated your JavaScript, checked your cookies, and issued that Ray ID? Well, if we look at the very bottom of the page, we see the architect of everything we've just witnessed. This overarching infrastructure is provided by Cloudflare. They're providing this trifecta of performance, security, and privacy. They are the massive global network standing right between you and proandroiddev.com, orchestrating this entire invisible ballet in literally the blink of an eye. Which leads me to this final kind of wild question. We always think of this screen as us waiting for the internet to load, right? But it's actually the internet making sure it can trust us. So next time you sit there and wait just a moment, who is actually verifying who? Are you waiting for the website, or is the website rigorously testing you? Hopefully this explainer leaves you looking at these everyday 2-second security checks in a completely new and maybe a little fascinating light. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and as always, keep questioning the digital world around you.